Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. For sharing and learning from one another, it's a vibe. Read with Rosa podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educator spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, checking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Make you strive. Monumental. And rock with me and get down to this new jam. With my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's a grand slam. I'm out. Welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. I'm really excited to introduce today's guest. He is an artist, a rapper, and producer under Elect Records. He goes by the name Newselph. He's also a dad and a husband, and he's known as Pastor Nick to his congregation. All the way from Canada, we have Newselph here on the show. Bro, thanks for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. That was great.
Man, I'm so excited. Can you tell? Serious, man. When I reached out to you, I was thinking, I wonder if he's gonna be like random. But when I reached out and you're like, yeah, sure. I was like, yo, I appreciate it. And then you never were like talking about books and stuff. And then I think I asked you about what books do you read, and you said work. And I was just like, Moses, does he read like books about producing? Or it didn't even occur to me that you had another job. And when you said that, I was like, yo, that's it. He must have some pretty cool stories to tell. That's why I was like adamant. I was so excited when you said, yep, I can be there. I can do this interview. Anyways, enough about my stories. Bro, how are things out in Canada, man? To be honest, I didn't even think I heard anything about Canada. In terms of the pandemic, like, I suppose that's a good thing, right? Does that mean it was managed a little bit better? Like, a year later, how are you and your family doing? Your relatives. Is everyone okay coping with the pandemic? Or
Yeah. We're pretty good overall. I think I kind of stopped, to be honest. I kind of stopped paying attention to some of the news a little while ago because it can be kind of overwhelming. But I think compared to some other countries, and maybe even compared to like the States just south of us, I think like in general, I think Canada's handled the pandemic decently anyways. That can change like province to province. But we're pretty good. We're pretty good overall. Sorry if you can hear my kids. I think I hear my kids in my headphones. And I'm like,
you're all good. You're all good, bro. I hear them, but fine.
Yeah. They might not always be happy. Yeah. Speaking of my kids, it's hilarious when we can go out and do some normal stuff. Like when they see other kids, are like, yo, like what are those? Are those kids? It's wild.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. Just the other day we were able to go out to a playground with the kids, and there's another family there, and it's just like, man, there's another kid, let's go.
Wow.
they were super pumped. Yeah, but no, we've been pretty good overall. I think in some ways it's obviously been pretty difficult. Like I have some relatives who live in a different province from me, but they're like completely alone, and we like can't really go see them. So like we're on FaceTime like multiple times a day, just talking, and not always just talking. Like we'll just set up the iPad, and like my mom will just like watch the kids,
right,
as if she's sitting on the couch with us.
But that's it, right? Is that sometimes you just need that, like even just to hear the voice. Like when I call home, like in New Zealand, everything's pretty much gone back to normal, but it's just hearing voices, right? It's just hearing
Mm-hmm.
laughter. And sometimes I just call them so they can talk in the background and I'm just sitting there listening. I just want to hear my language. I want to hear their laughter. I want to hear their stories and what they've been up to since they're pretty much, back to normal there. So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool that your mum does that. I think that's really cool. Man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I know I did the whole big intro, but did I leave anything out, bro? Like, can you tell? I mean, are you from that area? Are you in the part of Canada that speaks French? Or, I mean, do you speak French as well? Or you're in a different, that's not that part of Canada? Or,
Yeah. I don't speak French. Arguably I should. I am French a little bit. Um my grandpa's from Quebec.
mm,
Originally it's where his family is from. Um I actually right now, like the city that we're in, which maybe shouldn't be called a city, but it's probably more like a town. But they kind of fought to call themselves a city a few years ago. But anyways, the city that I'm in started as like a French
ah,
village, like way
okay.
back. So there's still like you'll still hear people going on and on in French, kind of wherever you go around here. Which is why, arguably, because I am French and I live in a place where a bunch of people speak French, you'd think I would, but I don't. Um, I'm not from here originally. I do have some extended family in the area, but I'm from one province over. I grew up in a city called Saskatoon.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was like, please say it because I didn't know how to pronounce it. I mean, I had seen that. I was like, let me do some research on Nick. And then I was just like, I hope he mentions this. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this. And so
Yeah,
yes.
and the province is Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
Who's these names? Carry
yeah. I
on,
don't.
carry
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on. Man. So, um, younger Nick, like, did you dream about being an artist? I mean, when you were in school, you know how you hear like artists tell this story of this is where it all began. And I mean,
Hmm.
do you have a story like that? Did art and music? Was that always a part of your life, like growing up, or was it just something that you kind of like maybe picked up in college, or like what's your story?
Yeah, definitely, definitely always a part of my life. Um, Growing up in Saskatoon, just me and my mom and my sister. My mom sent us to I got to get the all the titles right. It was like a fine arts Catholic like elementary school.
Mm,
Um, and so, anyways, there like I was in band class. Like I played saxophone for a while, and we learned some guitar and bass. And I later on started playing a little bit of drums. And my mom put us in piano lessons when we were kids. And
wow.
I draw and I paint a lot too. Not as much as I used to, but I've like some art galleries, they'll like work with the
Mm.
local schools, and they'll like grab all the stuff and put it. So I always thought I was like super cool. It's like I was a kid and my stuff was in the gallery. Like what a
Man, that's so dope. Like,
um yeah.
Moses.
So definitely always my mom played music all day every day, and she
Wow.
would sing along, and we'd bump it in the car, and it was always fun. Yeah, yeah.
So you also hold a tune and sing and do all
Well,
that
you
in
know,
choir and did that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've sang in some choirs and stuff too, and played in some bands, and yeah, yeah. I've done a bunch of stuff. I started I started doing more specifically hip hop stuff.
Mm,
Like I always heard hip hop growing up, like at school and stuff. My mom never played it, but I always heard it at school. Yeah, she was
She was
not.
like, nah.
She was like, what is that? But she'd say that about a bunch of music that I listened to.
Right.
But I started doing more hip hop with a buddy of mine in high school. We'd like go to his house and in his basement on his computer. I think it was his parents' computer, and like download some like beat making software and just like start making like utter garbage. But
So it was always there. You were just, man, testing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And me and
so
him started
cool.
like we started tagging too. Like we started doing a little bit of graffiti. We never did any anything on, like, we never did any painting on the wall really. It was all like just hand drawn
So
on
you weren't
paper.
like breaking laws or anything, like jumping the train on the
Yeah.
wall.
I wouldn't
You weren't
have
like-
even known. Yeah, I wouldn't have even known like where to start. Like, how do I do that? Yeah.
Man, and I mean, what about dancing? Were you like breaking? I mean, were you? Do you know
I
what
wished.
I mean?
I wished I could. I still wish I could, but I can't.
You still got
No.
time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Although now, like, we'll play. Like, I'll play, or I'll show my kids like breakdancing. Like, I'll show them the videos of the competitions and the world champions and all that stuff, and then my kids will like. They'll like
Man,
do
are you
somersaults
like
on
the
the floor.
cool dad or something? You sound like you're the cool dad.
Yeah,
Man, get off here. I need to talk to your kids, man. Get out of here. I want to ask them. Bro, that's so cool. And then I suppose you also show them the DJ champs and all that.
Yeah. Not as much. They're not. That doesn't hold their interest very much. My kids are really young yet, 4 and 2 and 1, so they don't. But you show a guy doing a head spin they're like, what is that? And then they like do somersaults and they're like, look, Dad, I did it. And you're like, sure you did, yeah.
That's so cool. You got to show them like the hip hop champs, right? Like hip hop champion. I mean, obviously pre-COVID because everything's been shut down, but I mean the kids groups that perform at the hip hop champs, the dance bro. I think your kids, well, at least the 2 older ones, they will love that, man.
Yeah, I'm like secretly hoping that they're like, Dad, can I take breakdancing? Like, yes, my son, you can.
Whatever you need.
Yeah,
I love it, man. And so at school, I mean, aside from the arts, sounds like the performing arts, the fine arts, were you much of a reader in school, or more the creative?
Yeah, I really wasn't. I was a lot more creative. Oh, there's some angry children. Yeah, I was a lot more into the creative side of things. I didn't read a whole lot. I also didn't pay attention in class, really. So if there was any assigned reading or things like that in class, I very likely didn't do it.
Man, and do you have a favorite teacher? Do you remember having a favorite teacher in school?
Yeah, I had in high school. We had a my math teacher in high school in the 11th grade. That teacher had to leave for some reason. I don't remember. And we had a sub come in from that year. His name was Mr. Ojuku. I think he was from South Africa. And oh man, he was my favorite. He was so funny, and I would goof off in the class, but I don't know. He seemed to know how to like use my goofing off to my benefit. I nailed that class. I did so well in that class. It was crazy.
So he just had ways of connecting.
Yeah.
Keeping you engaged.
Yeah. It was really, really cool.
So I want to talk coffee. Oh, hello. There you go, drinking coffee. Let's talk about coffee, right? Because man, I think it was actually a while back when I noticed on the same day that Serene Poems, shout out to Serene Poems, he had a story that had him making coffee, and I thought, interesting. And then a few minutes later, I was like, wait. Newselph story, and it's got you making coffee. And I'm like, what is it with these guys and their coffee? And I'm just watching the stories going, are they trying to one up each other? Or is it just like random thing that's happening on this day? What's with you and coffee? I mean, obviously you love coffee, but like
Yeah, well, if it's about one upping each other, they're definitely kicking my butt because they're they're like roasting their own beans and stuff. Like, I'm not there yet.
they're not there yet.
Yeah, I started drinking a lot of coffee when I was um in my master's program. And to the point where I would just like I'd have a carafe. I mean, this isn't a carafe, but I'd be carrying a thing of coffee around.
Oh my
with
gosh, you were that guy.
I was that guy. And it was weird because it wasn't. I don't know that I necessarily would have been that guy if I didn't see some of the other guys doing it. I was like, oh, I can just bring my coffee around. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. And so that's kind of when it started. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not that into coffee. Like I'll go a few days without coffee.
Right.
But I've really started enjoying the routine in the morning of like grinding up my beans, putting them in the French press, pouring a cup, drinking it while I get the kids breakfast. Like I've really enjoyed that routine. And then and it also, specifically through the pandemic, it also became a way for me to kind of connect with a local roastery here. There's this family. They live, I mean, practically down the street from me. They're a little ways away, but it's not far. Just in their basement they're roasting their own beans. They get their coffee into all the grocery stores around here and then up in the city, and I really liked their stuff the first time I had it, so I kept going back to find those same beans, and then started connecting on Instagram, and then we talk back and forth all the time now. So it's really also become a way for me to connect with them and support them too. So I pretty well only get my coffee from them now as a way to, pour into them. Haha, pun intended.
Oh, you are that guy. I love it.
The dad jokes, right?
The dad jokes. And do you read to your kids? I mean, do you have time to read to them? Picture books and things like that.
Yeah. Our kind of the bedtime routine has pretty well always included some kind of a book or a story. Yeah, we have a book actually. Hold up. We have this book called The Lemon Tart that my wife's aunt, who is a teacher one province over, she worked with a couple of her students, from what I understand, to write and illustrate and like get it published.
That's awesome.
And it's a really dope. Yeah, it's a really dope book. So we read that one a bit, and I'm a fan of some of the Dr. Seuss books too. Yeah. I like the Sleep book. Sleep book is my jam.
Man, that's so cool. And I mean, like you mentioned, some of the videos and things that you show your kids, but any of them musical? I mean, well, the two older ones, I mean, are you starting to see that they like to jam, or are you kind of like slowly kind of nudging towards the piano? Like,
yeah. So we have right in our apartment, there's not a lot of room in an apartment. So right in our like dining room, by dining room, I mean just like the the few feet where our kitchen table is, but right by it we have like a stand-up piano that somebody was just giving away for free a few years ago. We're like, yoink, give me that. And yeah, all three of the kids, like the youngest one too, the 1 year old, once she figured out how to walk and she can now kind of like climb up on the chair and stuff, my 1 year old will climb up there and just start bam, 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 like banging on it.
So cool.
They're all, yeah, it's
in the genes.
Yeah, or you give them like, they'll take their spoons and they'll, you know, if I'm playing some beats or something in the morning, they'll grab spoons and drum along. So,
who are some of your role models like growing up? You know, people around you that you kind of looked up to and thought, you know, one day I'm going to be like that person. Did you have many role models?
Yeah,
around?
you know, it's a weird, in some ways it's kind of an odd question. Not odd. The question is good. It's an odd one for me to try and answer. In a lot of ways, I was and still am like 3 billion% just insecure in whatever way you could possibly think of. And so I almost looked at everybody. I was like, oh, I should probably be like that, or I should probably do that, or whatever, right? And so there were definitely people that were like really, really important in my like in my development and my maturing. But they were all kind of like, there weren't any really like, whoa, like celebrities or artists or things like that. It was all like local people, and my mom, obviously a very big role model, particularly, you know, being a single mother. She's obviously massively influential in my life and how I think and how I act and who I am today, you know. And she also would make a point of trying to connect me with, like when I was a young kid, trying to connect me with or see me spend time with, you know, like guys from the church, or, you know, so I also had kind of like father figures in some ways, in that sense too. So yeah, that's probably a longer answer than you were looking for, but
are all, no, seriously, you are all good. What's something that people don't know about you as a father?
As a father, that I don't know what I'm doing. Although you probably know that if you watch me at all. that I am flying blind completely.
Like, I'm winging it. Every day is a new day. There's always space to learn.
Yeah, 100%.
So what's the best advice that someone's given you then, in regards to being a father? Like,
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know. Nothing comes to mind immediately, but I've had a lot of encouragement and I guess just affirmation from people that I respect or you know what I mean. Because there's, you know, like, it's going back to that insecurity thing, like when you grow up without a dad, like, I don't know how to dad. Like, I have no idea, right? Like, it's a weird it's a weird thing to say, but like you grow up and you yourself, you don't know how someone has a dad. Like, how do you do that? How do you have a dad? How do you relate to somebody uh in that way? And growing up not knowing that, not having any kind of context for that, really, I'm kind of just, like I said, winging it. And so I haven't, like, that I'll ask questions, or people will give me advice or whatever, but I think the biggest thing, or the most impactful thing that I've been told, or that I've been given by people with regards to parenthood, excuse me, is just affirmation, that, like, no, you're doing all right. Like, some of these things that we get so caught up in and so worried about maybe aren't as big a deal as we think they are, or whatever. So
Mhm.
um yeah, I don't know about advice, but just like, I've had some really good affirmation and support, I guess, from people. So that's been good.
That's nice. So you mentioned hip hop culture earlier. So what was the scene really like? When you were coming up, like, and where you lived, like, was there a hip hop scene? Were there, I don't know, just like any local acts that you were able to kind of like really get into, or was it more the American, like, the American like hip hop
Yeah. Yeah,
culture?
man, I don't know what it's like where you are, or back in New Zealand, but we get so much American media. It's wild. But yeah, the scene in Saskatoon when I was a kid, um it was probably it was probably bigger and more involved, maybe is a good way to put it, when I was younger. But that's when I wasn't aware of it, really. Um, when I was younger, I was heavy into skateboarding, and so my exposure to the hip hop scene, um, and hip hop culture in general, was via skateboarding. So, like, there's a skate shop in Saskatoon called Nine Times, and they had their back wall. They would free that up. I I don't know if there was a regular rotation or not, but every now and then, they'd have another artist from the city, paint their back wall. And so, it was things like that. Sort of, um, I wasn't directly in the hip hop scene, but it was always around, because I was into skateboarding. I got more into it as I got older, into high school. I started going to some local shows. Started finding out about, like, oh snap, like, there are MCs in the city that are good, like, that I started to find out about. Some that I still will talk to this day. And so, yeah, it was really good. It was really good. It's a little different now, and I haven't been back in Saskatoon for a while. Um, so I'm pretty unaware of what's going on now, but yeah.
Who are you listening to in high school? Like, do you remember, like, who were some of the rappers that you were listening to?
Oh
Um,
man.
like, who, I guess, who was one of the first rappers you heard and thought, whoa,
Like,
okay,
locally or just in
or
general?
just in general, like, and you were like, yo, okay, this is,
The first,
feeling
like,
this.
yeah, like some of the first stuff I heard back in elementary school, like um this is back when, you had like your like I don't know if you've heard of LimeWire or like,
Oh
you
yeah, yeah,
download
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
all the kids were like, "Yo, come check out this new song I
yeah.
downloaded."
Yeah.
you know and then like one of the kids in class had a like on his dad's computer there's a CD burner, like, "Oh man, we're
Oh,
check
look
out all
at
these
that!
songs and gonna put them on a CD for us, oh man." And they're like kind of ducking, like
Yeah,
nobody can see us.
like, yeah, shh,
um
don't tell
yeah,
anyone. Oh, I love
yeah.
it.
So I mean, like, all um some of the very first stuff I heard is like from Pigeon John, who was part of LA Symphony.
Yes.
And then, obviously through
Rosa's
Pigeon.
LA Symphony, like serene poems
Yeah.
and well, sorry, carry on. I was just like, yo, okay,
Yeah,
carry
yeah,
on.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah, which is why, man, I made 2 albums with this guy that
oh my
I've been
god, we're
listening
getting
to
there,
for a
bro.
while.
Oh my, okay, sorry,
So
carry on. I was just
yeah,
like, you got me.
but yeah, so that's some of the first stuff I heard. Yeah, like Pigeon
Wow.
John. Um, actually, hold up, I think this is it. Yeah, okay. Um, I found the single once, and I was so pumped. I just had to buy it. This was my jam for like a long time. Life Goes On,
Wow.
Abstract Rude, Pigeon Man. The song is so good. Anyways, that was my favorite song for a long time. But um yeah, and I like early there's a group called Cunning Linguists. Some of their early stuff as well. I heard it when I was a kid, and it just kind of grew from there. Obviously, the really big, like Eminem was the biggest thing on the planet
Yeah.
forever, and so obviously we heard lots of that end of the spectrum too. But yeah, a lot of kind of like more underground stuff like that is what I heard a lot of. A group called Mars Ill, still one of my favorite groups. They're from Atlanta. Yeah,
Let's just jump right into. Let's go back to LA Symphony. We can jump around. We can do that.
yeah,
My goodness, serene poems. Let's just go there. Roses, you must have been buzzing out.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wait. Let's go back because you're an artist. I know. I'm just getting excited now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're. I mean, you know, I want to talk about your producing and stuff, but you're under. You signed with Elect Records.
Hmm.
Is that how you met Serene Poems, or like,
No,
how did you even connect with them?
yeah. So, in a lot of ways, I'm really coming to hate social media, but social media has its benefits. Um, I I met. Well, okay. Let's be all the way clear. I have not met him in person yet.
Okay, I was gonna say that was my question. Have you met him in person, or has it all just been done through like FaceTime and
Yeah. Yeah, we've been on like
email?
FaceTime and stuff a bunch. Yeah,
Oh,
like it's, if he ever finds his way up here or vice versa, like we're good. Like he's staying in my house. We're good, right? Um but yeah, it's been through things like FaceTime. I just I think I hit him up on maybe Twitter
mm,
or Facebook or something like that. Like there was a while where when I started really when I started really getting into production seriously, I was like, I'm just gonna see if they'll answer my messages at even like
just
if these
putting
guys that
yourself
I
out there, right?
yeah, like, hey, I make beats. Do you want to
Mm.
rap on them? Um,
Oh,
so I think I just did stuff like that, and he was very like he's such a good guy. Like he's kind and gracious, and so he's like, yeah, like send me some stuff, I'll listen to it. And he liked it, and I said, do you want to like make an album? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And so that's how we made uh, our first album, 88 to Now,
Now, yeah.
and I had um, kind of made it an unspoken goal because I'd been a fan of Elect recordings.
Mm,
I'd been a fan of them and listened to much of their stuff for a while. And so I kind of made it. I don't know if I ever said this to anyone, but I kind of made it a goal. I was like, I'm going to put myself in front of them enough so that it wouldn't make sense for them to not work with me or sign me or
mm,
whatever. And so that's kind of how I went about that and worked with Sareem and I started some other projects around the same time too that are still in the works but not done yet. And it was actually Sareem who went to the label basically and said, "Hey, you should sign this guy because he's good or whatever. He works hard, blah blah blah. Like you should do that." So it was it was Sareem's fault that
mm.
that I'm here.
Man, yeah, because like I think like I heard about. I honestly, I had never even heard of you guys. Like, I don't,
Mhm.
I don't know if you know Cruel Out the Box Media, Out the Box Talks. Like Cruel, he does like um he's like been doing podcast interviews for years with the whole underground hip hop scene, and so he's got his Out the Box Talks on YouTube, and then he's
Mm,
got the Instagram page. So this is how I discovered you guys.
mm.
It was The Art of Living, right? It was that album,
Yeah.
and he had put it as like late, new release coming out. Like he had been promoting it, and
Mm,
I had discovered like just all these other cool indie artists through there. Then I listened to the album, and honestly, and I say this to everyone, that was like my favorite album. I think I only discovered you guys like maybe, I don't know, it was near the end of the maybe October or something. Like it was late
mm.
in the year,
Yeah.
but man, you know, I listen to that like every day, man. Heavy rotation, like even now, it's just such a like feel good album, like it's
Mm,
just cool vibes. You know, it just resonates with you. The messages in each of the songs, the beats, of course, the production side, bro. Like my gosh, so like it's just I don't know what to say other than everyone I talk to, I'll be like, yo, you gotta listen to this, check out these guys stream poems, new
mm,
stuff. Like bro, it was amazing. And it was only like later that I went back and listened to the first project that you guys did together,
mm.
88 to Now.
Yeah.
But man, The Art of Living is still one of my favorite albums to play. Like my favorite beat on there is the Lessons song. I
Mm,
play it a lot on my stories, like, like on my Instagram stories. Every chance I get, I'm like Serene Pose. Like I love I love playing your guys' instrumentals. Like man, bro, like honestly, that album just like the Lord Willing song, the Surviving Ain't Living song,
mm.
the Lessons song, the morning song. That's my go-to to pick me up. Like just
Yeah.
gets you buzzing. Like and the beats, like if the beats weren't, like I'm a beats person. Like I don't know if you listen to every podcast, I'm always going, because I'm a beats person. Like I hear the beat, and then it doesn't matter how good the lyricist or MC is, like if the beat's not there, I'm just like, yeah, nah, not connecting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that album was so special, bro. Like
Mm.
I just, man, anyways, I know I'm just kind of like,
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I mean, what's your like the production side of things, like where do you get, because I read in this interview that's there was I can't remember, there were someone was describing your type of beat making. Like how do you describe your type of beat making? I mean, teach me, because I don't know the language of the, I don't know the production side and the lingo that goes with that and the jargon, but because I just hear the finished product. But
Hmm.
how would you describe your beat making, or yeah?
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever had to just describe my beat making. How would I describe
Well,
it?
yeah, like, I mean, where
Yeah.
do you get the inspiration? Like, are you like, how does it all go down? Do you just kind of like, where does your inspiration come from? If that can be, if you can say you get inspired to make a beat.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know, like,
Yeah. I get inspiration specifically on the production side because it's not always the same. Like if I'm gonna write, for example, if I'm gonna write a song or like write lyrics for a song,
mm,
that inspiration is different oftentimes. The inspiration for the production side um, often just comes from music itself. Like I'm a sample based producer for the most part, meaning primarily what I do is chop up samples and replay them and manipulate them and to no end and make something new out of it. Um, and I know I pulled out some vinyl. I started with vinyl, and I'll still do that a little bit now and then. But I've gotten more heavily into kind of the like sample packs and stuff like that lately. It's like a whole industry around that is huge now. Didn't
right.
exist, you know, not that long ago. Really, it didn't even exist. But now there's this massive industry behind it. But um, a lot of my inspiration just comes from listening to music and going back to the insecurity, going like, oh
Mm.
man, like I've never made anything this good ever. Like I need to go fix that. Like I need to go see if I can make something even remotely this good or whatever. And so in a lot of ways too, I'm not even that confident that I have a very specific sound to myself because I always feel like I'm chasing the sound of the people that I like the most,
Mm.
you know? So like I went through a phase where I just wanted to make DJ Premier beats.
Right.
I
Yeah.
was like,
You're like, yo, I'm
I'm
on
just going to
that.
do this. That, you know, I went through a phase where I just wanted to make Ninth Wonder type of stuff, or or Crisis, or those Jamla guys. Um, I went through a phase that I think every hip hop producer does, where I really just wanted to make whatever Jay Dilla might have made,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm listening to um, a lot more Mad Lib,
Mm.
um, that kind of stuff, and so I'm not totally sure that I necessarily have my own sound yet. I'll probably, hopefully, discover that one of these years. But yeah, so a lot of times I'll get inspired if I hear someone else's beat and I go,
Mm.
dang it, like I need to go and either quit making beats completely
Yeah.
because I'll never be that good, or I need to see if I can't step something up
Mm.
and try and match that, or not necessarily match or like mimic it, but make something that feels the way that feels.
Mm.
See if I can't capture whatever that kind of ingredient is that really makes that like special. Um, and so I've also, I also feel that way or get that inspiration just listening to jazz, listening to listening to
Jazzy
records.
vibes. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's the buzz.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, and a lot of times, like with the two albums with Sareem, a lot of the inspiration from those beats came from like listening to the samples in the sample packs. Shout out to Soul Surplus. Those guys and some others like them just make incredible stuff. Like they could put those out on DSPs. They could press those onto vinyl, and I would just buy them to listen to those to the samples themselves. Like they're incredible musicians and artists, and so a lot of times I just hear stuff from those guys and go, I gotta flip that. I've got to do something with that because that's crazy. Like that's insane. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you know how like in some producers have that signature sound, there's that signature, I don't know, there's something that you can hear and every beat they make, there's yep, there's that signature. I mean, that's what I was gonna ask. Are you still trying to do you have that signature like
Yeah, I don't
thing
know
in
if I
there
do.
or you're still working on that? You haven't
I
quite figured
think I have I think I have habits. I
mm,
have I have things that I tend to do. I have a routine that probably shapes the end result a lot more than I think it does. And maybe if you can, I don't know, sum that up or quantify that somewhere, maybe that's like my sound, but it doesn't seem like it to me.
mm,
Like I don't listen to my stuff and think, here's how I know
right.
this is
Like
my,
yeah,
like,
that's you. That's new stuff. Yep, I
you
hear
know,
that.
and even like you listen to Dilla for the obvious example, like that guy, he switched his style up multiple times and you could still tell it was him.
Mm.
And like, I don't know how do you do that? Ugh.
I feel like after this, I need to go back and listen to your projects and be like, I'm gonna catch that, and then I'm gonna be like, Bird, I figured it out. I've got it right here. Let me tell you. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Well, and it get like I think a lot of times what you make can be shaped by things that aren't have nothing to do with music at all, too. Or things that are kind of like sort of related but not totally. Like um I've thought a lot about how do I put a project together myself that is wise
Mm,
in the sense of I can best utilize and maneuver this weird streaming kind of era that people either seem to fully embrace or they just can't stand it. And
mm,
I'm going like, how do I make something that is really like it's true to me? It's not like I'm sacrificing anything, but that is still going potentially anyways. I mean, you never know what catches and what doesn't, but could still work well in this kind of era.
mm,
And that in a lot of ways has started shaping, I don't think in a negative way, has started shaping some of my habits, some
mm,
of the things I've been doing. I've been trying to think, okay, how can I bring these these um these kinds of dynamics into shorter songs? I did a beat tape long time ago that might be on SoundCloud or somewhere like that. I don't know, but um, some of the beats on there are like 8 minutes. So I was like, I'm just going to make long things that go all over the place. It's just going to be long as all. And now, if the beat that I make and like export and send out, if it's over 3 minutes, I'm like,
mm,
I wonder if there's some way that I can keep this dynamic and shorten it a little bit, just to see if I can, right, as a challenge. Um, And so some of those habits will shape whatever your signature sound is, and it may have nothing to do with the actual music
Right,
itself,
right.
or but yeah.
Do you have a favorite producer? I know you've mentioned some names already, but is there kind of like this is the one that I look up to?
The one.
Or is
Oh
it more
man.
just kind of like taking from different? Um,
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know if there's one. Like I was saying, I've really gone through phases. Um currently currently I'm really interested in whatever I can find from Madlib.
mm, okay.
So he's probably my current favorite,
Mm,
but I mean, I don't know. I spend a lot of time watching the Instagram videos that Knots puts up.
mm.
Knots is he's crazy.
And so, do you have? I mean, do you like? Are you wanting to do? I don't know, more writing or rapping? I guess. Are you trying to find a balance there, or are you still kind of like, well, if someone asks me, sure, I'm gonna write, and I'm just gonna kind of go at it with the production. Like,
Yeah. Um
I mean, do you want to drop a freestyle right now? I'm just kidding. Here's your
no, I do not.
opportunity, bro. Sorry, go ahead.
um it's funny because I rapped first. Um
Oh wow.
I got into beats later because I needed beats.
Right.
I didn't have any like producer friends. And I wasn't so involved, sadly. I wasn't so involved in the hip hop scene back home that I knew how I would get started, I guess. And so it was just kind of my, like I said, my buddy, like in his basement, we're just like, we could, why don't we just do it? Let's just try something. And we didn't know really anybody. We didn't know what we could do. That changed a little later, but yeah, we started making beats because we were like, well, we rap and we need beats, so I guess we need to make ourselves some beats. Um, and then it was just kind of a fun hobby
Mm,
until a little bit later because I started really liking it, and I heard some positive feedback, not all positive, but some positive feedback enough that I thought, maybe I could actually like make some good music that people would like. Um, so I well, so I started with rap, and then I think I just ended up liking making the beats.
mm,
I think I just had more fun with that. Um, but now and then I do kind of get the itch to rap again, to write more.
mm.
So I have some stuff done. Um, I have um, what am I all working on? I have probably 3 or 4 solo projects
Mm.
done. Um, they're all EPs at the moment. Um, Mostly production with some features, and then I have done a couple of vocal songs myself. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, I'm waiting on a couple of things before I can kind of send those in for mixing and mastering and all that stuff. But yeah, I do have some stuff ready to go, and I have an idea for another project because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately,
Right.
and I thought about a project that was something like a podcast,
Mm.
and maybe even calling it something like a podcast. I don't know.
I
That's
like
maybe
it.
That's maybe really dumb. I don't know, but where I kind of where basically it just sort of gives me an excuse to kind of rap about what I've been thinking about lately and
It's cool, man.
whatever. So I did write a little bit just even the other day, like last week I finished a song um that could be for that. So, I'm kind of yeah, I don't know.
I can't wait. I mean, it's so cool to hear this because I'm like, I want to hear this guy rap for. Yeah, I want to hear some. I mean, who do you like as a producer? Like who do you want to collab with? Like who do you want to work with? Like right now, who's
Mm.
someone that you can think of like currently that you would like to work with?
Well, and see, this is the man. I have thought about this a lot.
You've got a wish list.
I have a wish list. And there's like this is the wish list that might be realistic, like
Mm-hmm.
people that I might actually be able to connect with. And this is the wish list that's likely never going to happen ever. So like on the likely never going to happen ever, like Black Thought. That's
Um,
just not going to happen.
never know.
Uh like all the guys that I love their music, like uh and not just guys, sorry, too, like
Yeah,
near the top of that list is Rhapsody.
Rhapsody. Mm-hmm.
She's crazy.
Yeah.
So good, so good. Most Def
Oh
or
man,
Black
right?
Star as a duo. I would.
Oh
Oh
man,
my goodness,
but do you
I'd
think that
lose my
they'll
mind.
ever make another album? Like I remember
Yes.
watching this interview and they were like, they don't want to make an album for this. They don't want to come together again and make an album for the sake of make. I was just like, come
Not
on,
even
man,
for me.
not it. Yeah, like we're not what.
Yeah. No, they
Bro.
have. They have. I mean, if I understand it correctly, they have another album done that Madlib produced all
Oh, I
of.
heard that. Right?
They
There's
and I
some
think
hold up on that.
yeah, well, yeah, and I don't know what the holdup is. Maybe I would
Mm,
guess like sample clearance, but
mm,
on People's Party, like on Quali's podcast,
right.
he recently interviewed Madlib,
Mm,
and they talked a little bit about it, and it seems like it is coming, but Madlib has to like I don't know find all the stuff that he sampled because I guess he doesn't even like always know. He just grabs
right.
stuff and makes stuff. But it seems like one is coming
Hope
that I'm
so.
excited about. I think they premiered one of their new songs
Oh my
on their
god.
podcast with Dave
Podcast.
Chappelle, which is
I was
crazy.
man, I saw your tweet and I was just like, bro, you know that man, what I didn't even know I mean it's like podcast A plus plus. It's like a whole nother level.
It's
Like
something
and just
else.
the way that the music weaves in and out of it, like it just keeps you
Mm-hmm.
engaged
Mm-hmm.
from start to finish. And it's just oh my life.
It's like a I don't even know what it's like. It's its own thing. It's
It
great.
is. There's
Yeah.
nothing out there like it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just,
Mm-hmm.
bro, they
I
are
just
just
love I
so
love
innovative.
listening.
It's so ahead of
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
that's happening right now, right?
And that's the thing. Like that's the beautiful thing when you're not really when you get to a point where you're not really paying attention to what else might be going on, what other people might be doing, and you're
Mm,
just kind of following your own
mm,
ideas to their conclusions. And then you bring that and find out, oh, actually nobody is doing anything like
right.
this. And it's amazing. And I love listening to smart people just
Mm,
talk about stuff already, but then you add like the production value there and everything that they've put into it, like it's
mm.
a whole experience. And I think they said it's going to be available on
On
vinyl.
vinyl. And it's so funny because last summer, because like, I follow them. I mean, I love Talib Kweli. Like I love them. I love them. And
Mhm.
it's so funny because they were doing all those summer camps, and so now that we're listening to the podcast and just kind of seeing how everything falls into place, and it's just like
Yeah.
they're just so ahead of the game. That like they were doing those summer camps and everyone was getting COVID tested and all that during
Mm-hmm.
last summer 2020, and then now to see the fruits of that,
Mm-hmm.
all that work. I mean, come on.
Well, and it's cool because you have the anticipation,
Mm,
remembering you remember some of those posts from over the summer, and remembering like, oh, like there was a lot of people there, like there's potentially a lot of really cool
yeah.
guests, excuse me, a lot of really cool guests on this
Mm,
thing. Like it kind of builds in a
yeah,
backwards way, sort of builds the excitement, even though they haven't said who's going to be on there.
exactly.
It's like, oh, I
No,
remember who
man.
was. Yeah.
See, in all my excitement of talking about this, I can't even remember what I originally asked you.
Oh,
Sorry, bro.
it was people
Oh,
that I want to
your
work
wish list.
with.
Right. And so then you said you had another wish list that is probably doable. Who's on there?
Yeah.
Who's on there?
Yeah. So
If I can ask.
yeah, no, you can. Yeah. So people people on my own, like on the label that I've been listening to for a while already, right? So Jose Moore,
Mm,
I'm trying to make some stuff with him. I'd love to
cool.
make an album with him. His last album, I have it here somewhere. Oh, it might be in that other stack. His last album was so good, and he's doing one with Tall Black Guy right now, and those singles have been really good. I'm excited for that. So I'd love to make an album with him. Um, I'm working on something. Oh, can I say that? I don't know. I would love to work with some Canadian guys that I've been listening to for a while. So
Nice.
Rel McCoy, he's a guy that I've been listening to for a while, who got signed to Elect around the same time I did, even though I still look at a guy like Rel. He's like on another planet from me.
Mm,
And but somehow we're on the same label, and it's like suddenly I have access to this guy that
yeah.
I've known for a while, we've spent some time together and talked, but it's like, oh, all of a sudden maybe like some music is possible there. Okay. Um and Shad is like, he's top 5 forever in my
Mm,
books. His stuff is incredible. So I'd love to do some stuff with Shad. We talk a little bit in the in DMs and stuff, and so hopefully something can come of that. But Eternia, another Canadian MC,
oh,
she's
you're so good.
great.
Mm,
She's great. Who else is on that list? I mean, there's a bunch. Yeah, there's a bunch of people on that list. And that list will probably change as time goes on, because again, I get so insecure that I'm like, would this person even entertain a message from me? Like if I sent them a message, if I reached out,
oh,
would they
man.
even, like, I just can't help but like some of that. So I sometimes I'm like, nah, maybe I should wait, or maybe but yeah.
Man.
But yeah, those are some
You've done
there's
some
more,
great
but
stuff, like Leap of Faith.
Wordsworth,
Words! Are you listening,
link
Words? Come
let give me
on. Ah.
link me up with Wordsworth. To be perfectly honest, I'm not as familiar with his catalog as I should be, but at everything that I have either heard in passing, or that I do have some, I've gone through and added albums into my Apple Music and stuff over the years, and like everything I've heard is, he's just so dope. So yeah, I saw that episode and I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's a little connection here.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's a teacher and stuff, so like we,
Mm-hmm.
connected because he's an educator, bro. He's doing some mean stuff with his kids, right? Like they've got these
Yeah.
awards. We talked about it in the episode that we did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And next week is the actual awards. And he sent me like a video yesterday of one of the kids. Oh my, like honestly, I was just like,
Hmm.
bro, this is like it is so dope that these middle school kids are just they're making the beats. They're,
Yeah.
putting everything together. Oh my god, I was like, bro, that's you, man. Inspiring those kids and
Yeah,
for
yeah,
real.
that was really it that was getting me excited. I was like, "Oh man, I wonder if there's some teachers like my oldest is getting ready for I mean, it's kindergarten, but still. I'm like,
Right.
man,
Still, man.
I hope there's some dope teachers around here to like get
For
my
real,
kids into some
man.
cool stuff." But
Yeah,
yeah.
man. These days gotta find ways to engage, kids, no matter how young they are. It's just
Mhm.
you gotta make it happen. Otherwise, you could scar that child for life.
No pressure.
No pressure. Man, it's cool. I'm glad to hear that you've got this wish list. And honestly, bro, man, I just love the work that you've done with, with Serene Poems. Like people every time I'm like, check out this album, man. Like it's just I can't
Yeah.
even put into words because that's how much I love it. But
Wow, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you telling people like because social media is such a funny thing. Like we post and we tag people, and then
mhm,
I'll go, "Oh yeah, add that to my story." But like,
right,
I haven't talked to. I mean, I've talked to you, but
right.
like, so a lot of the people, who will post stuff, like do you like interact with the
Mm.
people who post your stuff, or do you just click add to my story and with the prayer hands emoji and or whatever, right? Like and like it's this weird and maybe it's that whole I'm insecure and need affirmation thing, but I want to hear from people.
Yeah,
Like I want to talk to people. Like what
right,
did you like? What did you hate? Like
right,
what did
right,
you
right.
really not like about it? Why? What did that make you think about?
Mm.
What did it whatever, right? Like um
Yeah,
I
like
actually want to talk to people and it's social
mm.
media is such a weird thing.
I don't. I guess I just want to ask just a few questions, just in regards to
Yeah.
your work.
Yeah, sure.
How did you get into the ministry? Because you mentioned, like, did you study? Like, you mentioned your master's program
Mhm.
earlier on in the interview.
Yeah.
Um, were you studying at that time to go into the ministry, or was it something that came after you like done college and then realized? I mean, how did you realize your calling, bro?
Yeah. Well, I my mom when she was a teenager she became a Christian. Um and so she raised my sister and I like we've gone to church and stuff our whole life and so I've always been in that world, if you want to put it that way. And I remember when I was younger, the my pastor at that time had told me like, one day you make a good pastor. I was like, okay, man, I'm gonna go skateboard. I'm gonna go skateboard and draw graffiti. Bye. Um, but and I'm not saying that's when I knew. Like, oh no, no, but it's just a funny, and but it seems in a lot of ways like that kind of I guess that kind of option for work or like your or a vocation, you might say, like that's always kind of been there or presented itself. um Again, going back to my just like this insecure teenager doesn't know what in the world he's going to do. I had no idea. Like, who am I don't know. What am I going to do? I don't know. And so I just kind of did whatever came next. And so um long story short, it sort of always it kept showing up, and at times I wanted to do it, and other times I didn't want to do it, and that persists today. Like sometimes, like it's been maybe 6 years that I've been a pastor, and some days I'm like, nah, man, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna go build houses or something. This is dumb. And some days I love it, and so yeah, it's kind of I compare it to something my father-in-law told my wife. My wife asked her dad, "Hey, how did you know that like mom was the one or whatever?" And he said, "When we got married." And that's a weird, we never think of it that way, because it's like, well, duh. But really, like, I'm of the opinion that I could be doing a lot of things. I'm of the opinion that I could be married to I could be married to a different person, but I'm not. So, like, how do I know that she's the one? Well, I asked her, she said yes, and we got married. That's how so she is. Like, and so how did I know, my calling to ministry is when when I got called to be in ministry, and I said, yeah, that's, that's kind of maybe a simplistic answer, but it really is, like, in my thinking, that's kind of the way it is. So yeah.
How does faith, it's huge, so how does it inform your writing?
Yeah. Yeah, I like anything that's a big part of your life in some way is going to affect, the ways that you think, the kind of decisions you make, the way you process information, the way you decide to respond, or the way you find yourself responding to situations. I'm not convinced we always know what we're doing or why we're doing it in life, but really no. But so in some way, like, sometimes it might come through a little more explicitly, sometimes it won't. But like, when you have like a fundamental kind of belief in something, it whether you're aware of it or not, right, it will shape how you do everything. So I might not talk about explicitly religious things, but you can probably tell. I mean, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Whatever. I don't know. But you can probably tell by the types of things I say, maybe in a conversation with somebody, or the types of ways that I will respond to a situation or whatever. You can probably tell, like, okay, this guy seems to think this way about something or whatever, right? And so in that sense, like, I don't necessarily try and put any particular sort of bent on something that I make or write, but it will be there somehow, probably. I liked on our first album, Sareem and I, one of the skits in there, like the interview thing, when he was going through the question that he was answering was like, what kind of influences your music? Excuse me. And he went on to list like a million things. Right. And that really, like, that's really it. Like, there's a ton of things that go into why you create things, and or what you create when you create them. And something very particular about my faith that does go into everything I make, which is probably not all that explicit, but something that does go in, is the idea that my identity is something that has been given to me rather than something that I have to try and like find inside myself, which sounds weird. Yeah, like the um the in for me, right, to make this a lot more personal, for me it's very connected to the to all of that kind of insecurity. Who am I? What do I do? Like, it is exhausting trying to figure all of that out. Like, it's exhausting, and I did it for a long time, and a lot of people, I mean, I still do it, right? But like, so many of us, like, always hearing everywhere we go, and seeing and reading, like search inside, figure out who you are, and don't let anybody tell you different. And for I found for me that there was something very, very kind of freeing about, which came from my faith, my Christian faith. Something very freeing about my identity is not something I have to go and kind of figure out or make for myself, but it's something that has just been kind of given to me like a gift, you might say. And so, bringing in something that Propaganda, who I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a rapper, poet, another coffee guy.
There's a
down
whole
in the
gang
state.
of you guys,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're everywhere, right? Something that he said that jived really well with that and kind of solidified it for me was creating from an identity and not for an identity. And that really, like, that kind of clicked with me, like, oh, there it is. Like, I don't have to, like, I can just reach out to a guy like Sareem and send him beats, and I don't have to worry about what he thinks of me if one of the beats sucks or something, because I have sent him some beats that he's like, bro, what is this? I'm like,
It's like, what were you thinking?
I don't know what that was. I'm sorry. Right. And like, I don't have to worry about that, because I'm just making whatever is in me to make, and people will listen to it, respond to it, categorize it, whatever, however they want, and it's fine. I don't have to worry about any of that, because I'm not trying to form an identity based off what this guy Sareem that I've listened to forever. I'm not trying to form my identity based on what he said about me, even though he said some really nice things. I'm not trying to form my identity based off what Rosa thinks, even though her opinion is like, that's like the gold standard, right? If Rosa says something nice, you're like, oh dang, I've made it. I don't have to do that, right? I can just be me. Specifically, for the ministry side of things, right? Like, as a Christian pastor, I'm working a lot with the Bible. In my or what was I saying? How I would word that is like, the Bible says this about me, says this is true. All right. And I don't have to go searching around and like digging through all the mixed up craziness that is my own thoughts, my own emotions, which, I mean, they're all over the place sometimes, right? So I guess I've kind of found that freeing, not only personally but creatively. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to make stuff, and I don't have to care about what anybody thinks or
Do you, bro?
feels, like, and it's kind of nice. And if, I hope conversations about religion, or about politics, or about parenting, or about podcasts, about whatever, about eating healthy, because I don't and I should, like, I'm fine if conversations based on something I say, if those pop up, I want to have those conversations. Dope. Let's talk about it. Let's, like, I don't know. I don't know if that was the answer you wanted
Oh,
for the question, but
don't even
like,
stress about it, man. For
yeah,
real. You are all good.
yeah,
Man, I was just sorry. I'm just scrolling because I know I'm very aware you got to get back to your family. You've
yeah. It's
answered
all.
a lot of the questions.
I think my wife, if I saw correctly out the window, I think my wife took the kids out to the park or something. So yeah.
um, yeah, I think you've do you have a favorite verse that kind of like is your go-to? Because we all have those challenging days when
Mm.
you're just kind of like, yo, this is not the buzz. I'm not feeling this. Why do I have to do this?
This
But
is
is
not the
there
vibe.
this? Yeah, do you have that kind of like, I don't know, like go to verse that kind of just gives you that little push, that extra push to kind of like, just keep going.
Yeah. I I don't know. Honestly, I had for a long time. I had maybe not a long time. I guess in the scheme of my whole life, it's not that long. But for a while, I did have kind of a favorite verse.
Mm,
Um, in John, um, Jesus says to his disciples, he says, "In this world you'll have trouble, but take courage. I have overcome the world." And I remember I was at a particular sort of time in my life, my development, and I was younger when that, like, I don't know, that kind of that impacted me. That stuck with me. And so for a while, I would say that was my favorite. Lately, um, I'm starting to appreciate, in a more general sense, some kind of traditional things. So like if I'm having like a really hard time, a really tough day or something, or I'm struggling with something, um, I've often come back to like the Lord's Prayer,
mm,
just like reciting it. And I know, in a lot of ways, some people who like they want to be. I should be careful how I say this. Um, I've often heard people, they want to sort of move away from like a sort of like a dead religious,
mm,
going through the motions, that kind of thing, something, and in favor of something more like vibrant, maybe is a way to put it. I don't know, but and so a lot of times I think our generation has moved away from some of the traditional things,
mhm,
and I've found myself kind of going back to some of those and appreciating them. So for me, I don't know if there's like a favorite verse or a favorite sort of passage or story or something that I always go back to, but I have found some help, some comfort, some encouragement, whatever you want to say, in some of those traditional kind of maybe practices, like reciting the Lord's Prayer or
mm.
things like that. So yeah, yeah. And it's
Nice.
tough too because I spend so much time, preparing for like the worship service
Mm,
at church, like preparing to preach or whatever. Spend a lot of time just like studying all kinds of
mm,
things, right? And like translating, from the like original Hebrew or Greek or
Hebrew.
whatever. And so in some ways I can find myself almost in a weird way being separated from it personally,
Mm,
um sometimes. So I don't know if that's contributed to me no longer having a favorite particular part of the Bible or something, because I've just spent so much time in it. And
mm.
yeah, I don't know, it's a yeah but
Favorite part of your job?
I
Because I'm
probably
sure there are many challenges. So I'm not even going to ask about the challenges. I just want to know for you, what is, you know, um, obviously a lot of preparation goes into it.
hmm
You've got to be in the right heads, in the right space, and yeah,
Yeah.
like what's your favorite part of the ministry of what you do?
Um, it changes, but I think lately my favorite part, probably because it's one of the only parts I've been able to do with COVID, but it is a consistent thing though. It'll change, but this does consistently come back to the top. Is when I'm studying, I'm reading, or I'm listening to somebody teach or talk about a certain, I don't know, like topic or idea or a certain passage or whatever. I think my favorite part is when the inspiration hits me, when something clicks and I go, ooh, that's where I'm going to go with this sermon or with this study or this talk or this whatever, right? When the inspiration hits me and I'm like, there it is. That's where I'm going. And I like it, like immediately sets me into the zone, and I just like go for 3 hours until it's all done. Like I think that's probably my favorite moment lately anyways. It's just a nice, it's kind of it's a nice thing. You're like, oh, I know what I'm going to do now. Cool. Like, yeah. Yeah, that and actually being with people whenever I can, because I mean
Are
lately you
you
can't
back
be.
in full? Are you guys are still
No,
not full service or like?
yeah, no, we haven't like for quite a while, for a lot of last year, as a lot of places were, we were just online strictly, and trying to, all of a sudden you have to do everything online, and you're like, oh crap, how do you do that? How do you do all of that? How do you do everything online? Like we were doing a little bit of like live streaming the services on, I don't know, like Facebook or something, but then you have to go, oh shoot, how do you do everything online? So all of that adjustment and stuff. Basically our policy has been, um, that because the church as an institution, right? It can be interesting to try and figure out what's the best decisions in the midst of all this. So what we've done, and what I think is what I would say personally is kind of the best practices, um, in this situation. Like if the health officials or the government or whoever it is that's talking to you as the population to, here's how we recommend you respond, or in some cases, here's how we're changing the law, or maybe not changing the law. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, they're saying, here's how you ought to respond. We've just done that. We've kind of gone with that. Not without discussion, sometimes not without disagreement, not without whatever, right? As I think everybody knows, not everybody thinks we should be doing the same things.
Right.
But that's kind of been our thing. So that's changed even province to province in Canada. So there are some places that have been more tightly locked down than others, and some that have been more open. Our government just announced a plan based on the number of vaccinations and the number of hospitalizations. If they can sort of hit these targets of increased vaccines and decreased hospitalizations, they're hoping, through the summer to ease most of, or even all of the public health restrictions. And so our thing has been, whatever limit they've kind of put on us, we're just gonna do that. Whatever we can do, we're gonna do the heck out of it. So currently we can have 15 people inside the building for a worship service or some kind of a religious meeting, I think is how they word it. And so that's what we do. And so we're a pretty small little church anyways, but that's kind of what we've been doing. We've moved to multiple services. If there are people who want to come in person but can't for one, we have another one. And yeah, it's been a lot of it's been a lot of like fly by the seat of your pants. Okay,
Right.
how do we do that now? And a lot of Zoom.
A lot of Zoom. Everyone's like over Zoom.
Yeah,
I
but
forgot to ask, do the people in your parish know that that you're also a rapper for Jester? Or are you kind of like
yeah.
you're like part Rev Nick, and then on the DLM you're like, let's just separate this, right? I mean,
Yeah,
do they know? Like,
yeah, they know, but like the area that we're in, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of a hip hop scene. Like there is a hip hop scene in the in the city up in Edmonton, that I, as I've had opportunity, I've tried to get out to events and stuff like that. But I mean, 3 kids, one due in October. I live outside the city. Like, it's just, I haven't really been able to do a whole lot in the scene itself, which is sad. But so people know, and similar approach or similar kind of idea that I was saying before, like, as whatever comes up, yeah, we whatever. The youth are like, yo, when are you gonna wrap a sermon? I'm like,
yeah, I was gonna
never,
say,
probably
like,
never.
what do your kids in the youth group? They're probably
Yeah,
like waiting for you to drop
yeah, yeah.
some some bars.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I've found myself, when I'm writing my sermons, sometimes I've found myself like unintentionally rhyming. I'm like, stop it. You don't need to rhyme this. Just write it well. You
Oh
don't need to.
man.
Yeah. But it's kind of it again, I I keep saying this, I probably shouldn't, but back to the whole insecurity thing. There's a part of me that, like, there's just such different worlds, and I don't know if I love, like, the specifically sort of Christian music market. So I've pretty well not done any of it,
Right.
not much anyways.
Mm.
And I mean, like, if you listen to my albums, like, it's not for that, market, to
Right.
use that term. And so it's kind of a weird, like, yeah, they know, but just naturally the worlds don't really intersect all that much where I am.
Right.
So they don't really end up intersecting. So
Well, that's good.
yeah.
And then I guess just one last question. Do you have a superhero alter ego?
Oh.
Like, no,
Hmm.
yeah,
I don't know. I really liked Spider-Man and Wolverine growing up. Those were my two.
right.
I don't know if they're my alter ego.
Right.
Oh, man, I don't know. Dang, the hard-hitting questions here. Let's say Spider-Man. Spider-Man's an insecure teenager who can do cool stuff on the side. Sure, let's do that.
Yeah, let's go with that. And do you have a book recommendation before we wrap up? I mean, is there? I know that you've mentioned a lot of the reading you do really is just studying and prepping
Hmm.
for the service and worship.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a list, like my Amazon wish lists.
You
There are
you've
I
got
got
another wish list. Okay, okay.
I got mad books that I want to read.
Yeah,
Like Words, his book is in
yeah.
there. Quali's book is in there. Yeah,
Yo,
like there's
read
so many
it,
books I
man.
want to read, but again, it's the time. Like,
Time.
it's just the time.
Listen to the
Um,
audiobook. Listen to
yeah.
Tyler on audiobook, and it's
Does
so
he
good.
do it? Does he
Yes,
narrate it?
he does. And so I actually got
Mm,
the book, but I listened to the audiobook first because I pre-ordered it and then this came
mm,
later. Um but bro, and you know what? Yeah, just I listened to it when I'm commuting. It's so good. He does it
yeah.
himself. Yeah, we're still waiting for Words as our book as an audio book to drop.
Yeah,
It should
yeah.
be
He
coming
talked about that.
soon.
Where is that?
Yeah, we were it's
Where
just a
is that
few
words?
minor a few minor things. But bro, that was an experience, man. It was mean as it was so good.
Yeah.
Man.
So there's a lot that I want to read. I've got like Questlove's books on that
Oh
list that
yes.
I want to get into those. Propaganda just put out a book to work with an
Okay.
EP. That should be good. Um I do have some books. I've got like stacks of books around me. So the Boom Bap Review. This is
Ooh,
volume 1 from
what?
2019. He did one from for last year as well, but this is from Everybody's Hip Hop label. They do like they do a list of the hip hop albums from that year that they think you would like. They do some retrospective stuff like so 15 years ago so there's a piece in here on ooh let me remember here. There's writing in here
I'm
on
writing this down. I'm like, I'm gonna look for this up.
yeah on Black Moon, Fly Anakin, the Little Brother album. Um, what else I got in here? Yeah, something on on Retropolitan, the Sky Zoo and Pete album. So yeah, it's kind of fun because you take like we're sort of past the blog era,
Right,
but
right.
so instead of writing these pieces and just they put them in a like a physical book, and it's kind of dope. Um, and then there's a guy on our label, Syntax the Terrific. He goes by. He's also a lawyer. He's also a
A
sports.
lawyer.
Yeah,
Moses.
yeah, and he's also a sports guy. And he wrote a book called "What Is
Oh,
Sport."
what
You
is
should pick it
sport?
up. It's dope.
Okay.
It's funny. Here are the reviews on the back are hilarious, and it gives you a clue as to the book. I literally could not bring myself to read it. Everything he said in there, I think the opposite. So, anyways, you get the he's a funny guy. It's a
Okay.
great. Um, I have a couple of books that I just ordered
Nice.
um, that I haven't read yet, but I'm excited to read. From I don't know how do you pronounce his last name, Jaron Lanier, but this one, You Are Not a Gadget,
You are not a gadget.
and then this
Okay.
is a little one, 10 arguments for deleting your social media accounts. My wife just read this, and
But
she's
did
like,
she like? Oh
and she
no.
took her Facebook down. She's like, sorry guys, I'm closing this. I'm getting
Oh,
rid of
for
this.
real. So it was a good thing.
Yeah. So
Okay. Yes.
I haven't had a
Okay.
chance to get into them yet, but yeah,
Oh, that was great, man. You had some gems
but
there.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for coming through. I truly, truly appreciate it. It means a lot because I know that everyone's busy. But you've got your kids and your wife there, but you've taken this time out, and so um, thank you. And I'm just gonna hand it over
No,
to you to give the final words.
final
No
man.
pressure.
Yeah, no
Drop
pressure.
the gems, bro. Drop the
All the
gems.
pressure. Well, first, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on. This is fun. Um, I want to do more stuff like this. This is fun. Yeah, thank you for having me on. Words of wisdom, man. I don't know. I don't know if I have words of wisdom. I don't know if I know wise things. Um, I guess I would say listen to more of this podcast because you'll probably hear from really, really interesting, wise people who can give you words of wisdom.
Yeah, crack up. You're so funny, bro.
Yeah.
Man, and I just want to say that I guess if you got nothing else to say, Nick, Newselph, I don't underestimate yourself, man. Like, just the I'm sure, I'm pretty positive impacting and inspiring people around you every day and people that you connect with, in regards to your music and production through social media. So I'm so excited to see, like, what's going to be coming up in the future for you, bro. But yeah, like, just, take it in stride, take a leap of faith, and, put yourself out there because, bro, you are super talented. I know, like, I'm really just the no one saying this because obviously I don't really understand the production and all that, but just the beats and everything, like I've mentioned, like, you're super talented, bro. You got skills, so just, put yourself out there, bro. You've got so much to share with the world, not just as Pastor Nick, but definitely through, your work with your record company and stuff like that. So yeah, that's
Well,
what's up.
thank you.
And
See,
then
there's
what?
the wise words. Those
Nah.
are the wise words. See? What I tell you?
Yeah.
All the listeners, what I tell you? Keep listening. You'll have wise words.